All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Victory Over Self Radio, a podcast that dives into all things athletics. Along with Blair Bennett and Ross Garner, I'm Chris Kerr. Today, our special guest on today's episode is Dr. Andrew Pichardo, who recently has gone back and took a job with IMG Academy. Andrew, hey man, really appreciate you taking your time. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, guys. Excited to be here.
Great. We're going to start things off with Mr. Garner today. Ross, when we were kind of planning this out, had some really good questions that I also had. So we're going to let the Florida boys kind of connect here. Ross and Andrew are only, hour and a half, 2 hours away down there. So Ross, let's kick this thing off and get it going.
Love it. Yeah, eventually I'll get up there, but we'll see. So Andrew, what obviously you just came back to IMG. I think you're overseeing golf, if I'm not mistaken. What is that role looking like? What's your typical schedule? What made you decide to come back to IMG?
Yeah, so a couple reasons I came back. So my dad is Cuban, and all his family's in Florida. He grew up in Miami, and my parents live in Orlando now. So we have a 7-month-old baby girl, and so being back closer to grandparents, family. I have family in Texas also, but they were not where we were in Tyler. So family was part of it. Mentioned before we started recording, my wife also got a role at IMG Academy, so she's working as a strength coach also. So that was appealing, and having a place, a city big enough where we could both get full-time roles that we enjoy. And then just outdoor stuff to do around here. We're big outdoor people. So Tyler was great for like hunting and fishing and, being in the deep East Texas, woods swampiness, but we didn't really, that's not the outdoors stuff that we were into as much. So just having more things to do, was another factor. And then, big staff. So there's 20 S&C coaches on staff at IMG, different levels. So being back in an environment with other people, like-minded people, different experiences, different cultures, and just being able to learn it again. I was, quite alone sometimes out in Tyler where I was at. Obviously you can connect on social media and stuff, but it's different than be on the floor with different people and seeing how they coach and all that stuff. And everyone's coming from a different place there, which is one thing I enjoy. Not a lot of people are from Bradenton and then just grow up and work and live in that area to go to IMG. So you get experience of different cultures. And then another thing was just the opportunity to dig deeper into one sport instead of such breadth across multiple sports. And at my previous role, being able to work with one sport and study it a bit deeper, and hopefully not that the training differs as much, but just learn more about golf. I've been wanting to learn how to play golf, so now I feel like a good time to do that and get stuck in with that. So lots of reasons. Sunny weather year round.
It is that, and they got a heck of a setup too.
If it's all right, I'm gonna go off the radar of our questions for just 1 minute here, because Ross is going to be a parent soon, and as a parent myself, I would like to hear how having a baby has changed your strength and conditioning career. Because I know it affected mine, so I just want to hear your take.
Good question.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of, in one way, a factor of why we needed to both have a full-time role. Like where we were at, the baby was going to need to get into daycare soon, and we had financially we needed something more, so that kind of sparked it a little bit, and it worked out where my wife could get a job here. So baby's going to daycare now, which is different, but, my career, I mean, it forced that conversation or action. Like we were going to have to do something different. My wife took her time off. She was just working part-time, and we were realizing like, okay, this is not going to be sustainable with our current setup to go to daycare. We can't have you stay home and not do daycare. And there's, remote jobs are hard and far between. So that sparked action in itself. For me personally, like I've actually got more consistent in my own training now by part of it's the schedule, but part of it is like trying to make sure I'm the best person I can be for my family. Like it's a different, like, okay, I have a family to take care of now instead of just me and my wife. So that has got me back on track with my own training, which has been good. And then when my training's on track, everything else kind of seems to fall on track a bit more. But I told Ross he's going to need to do some isometric zerchers for a while, because like it's so crazy how light a baby is, but like how heavy they feel after holding them and rocking them and stuff for a while. You get real fatigued. So I'm like, dude, start working on it now.
Yeah, I've got a 4-year-old, which is a whole nother thing. Good luck with that.
Yeah,
but
I gotta get active.
I got a 1-year-old too, and like I remember we were lifting together, and I'm like coming home, I'm like beat, and then rocking the baby was like the hardest thing of all, because I'm like what the heck, am I dying here?
Yeah.
And then just like the lack of sleep affects everything, but it's a different experience. Ross is going to be in for it too, so
it is
awesome.
Yeah, it is, but it's great. It's great. I'm excited for you, Ross. So looking forward to hearing your experience. Obviously, we love the grit and the adversity and overcoming all that. So it's going to be right up there with all that. But let's see it as an opportunity to, challenge yourself, I guess.
All right, we can get back on track.
Really
now.
Excited here, guys. Really excited.
Selling it well.
any day now. So, Andrew, you've been obviously you've been at a public high school in Texas, which we all know Texas high school strength and conditioning is a beast in and of itself. I would argue, obviously, you have Texas and you got Georgia as kind of the big ones. How would you explain the difference of the way that IMG is set up? Naturally, it's a little different setup compared to a typical high school, right? What are kind of the big positives that you view from it, the way that they do it, and what's potential, hey, this is kind of a limiting factor on what you do?
It's completely different than any school out there, I think, that I'm aware of. To try to get specific and talk about the positives, obviously facilities, great facilities, but really at this point with the growth of the school and stuff, I feel like we're at a point where we're outgrowing them to a certain extent too, because like they're all student athletes. So yeah, you have more facilities, but then instead of 500 athletes out of 2,500 kids, it's 1,500 kids at the school, but they're all athletes. And we've expanded, so we have two weight rooms now. And we've got the bubble, which is like an indoor thing that sparked from COVID. So indoor turf, air pressurized, just a couple racks in there, but it's just, obviously you want to get more athletes in the door to help more people, but then it's like you need facilities for that. So we struggle with the same kind of like scheduling and staffing type issues that you would at any school, in terms of a lot of athletes, only so many hours in the day, everyone needs to train, but we make it work. It's just the logistics are at a super high level, whereas like at a public school I was at, I trained all the teams. I knew when they were coming in. I decided when they come in, and there wasn't any as much communication, I guess, that needed to happen, because I could oversee a lot of it. But other positives, I mean, and this is one of the aspects that I like about working there, and that came knowing what it would be like going back there, but just international diversity. Like there's people within, I have just over 100 golfers. There's probably 20, 30 different countries that they come from, all over the U.S. It's crazy. So you learn not only other people's coaching style, but you learn so much about different cultures and communication styles and stuff like that, which is, something you don't get especially in Deep East Texas. So that, that's cool. Other positives, there's a more multidisciplinary approach. Like there's sports science crew here. There's data science guys. There's nutrition. There's mental coaches. So just having, more conversations around the well-being of the athlete, as opposed to before I'm like the S&C coach, the nutritionist, the mental coach in a way. And like, it's hard to, first of all, there's the aspect of staying in your lane there. Like you don't want to give out wrong information or if you're, legality issues, but just learning from other people and how they interact and having, more resources basically to improve athletes, is always going to be helpful. Other things to work on, like I said, we run into some of the same issues as you would at other schools. And then just the kind of I guess it's a business to an extent. So like next week we'll have the Raiders coming in and training, using our facilities. So, that puts a roadblock, whatever. We got to work around that as a staff to train and different, be creative, find solutions, to that aspect. Whereas like
Interesting.
some high schools, you might have that. You might have a college come in and use their facilities, but, I think it happens more frequently here and on a bigger scale. So that's, just another wrinkle to the position, but yeah,
sounds like a good problem to have.
Yeah.
Yeah. It could be worse. So,
I mean, for sure.
So with that, Andrew, again, you've been a bunch of places. What are some of you've got 20 strength coaches there, and obviously you've been on your own, you've got a full staff and all that kind of stuff. What are some of the best practices that you've seen as far as, say, it could be organization, data collection, training, whatever it may be? Like, what are some of the things that you've taken away over time for best practices?
Yeah, try to pick up a little bit at each place I've been, whether that's things that I don't think operate smoothly, or wouldn't in other contexts. So some of the best data collection and conversations I've seen around data were probably at the Olympic Training Center in Lake Placid. So I was working with the sledding sports there, and they had force plates where they did mid-thigh pulls, every block. They ended up getting an opto jump like as I was leaving, so they were still playing around with that. But I know like they use that for gait analysis and stuff. And then they would do the guy there was ISAC certified, so they would do like girths, muscle girths, and body fat with the calipers and stuff, and like the athletes there would like talk about glute numbers and stuff. Like they would measure the glutes, and then that would be like an indicator of like levels of training ability, or like it's just cool seeing like people know their numbers and like compare those type of numbers with other people. Cause, I don't know, it's kind of funny, but even their sprints, like, they use just Brower timing gates, but, it was more integrated in their day-to-day operations, I feel like, than some other places I've seen. University of Florida, a lot of good training there when I was there, back in 2012, 2013. In terms of like specific things, I'm not sure. It was just, once again, ability to see different coaches and how they coach different sports, and you just pick up little things along the way. And then even at IMG, like there as a summer staff, you get a lot of experience when you're there. You're only there 8 weeks, but during the camps during the summer are like when there's higher volume of kids than just your 1,500 athletes. So see how the camps are now, being quite a long time from 2015, but coaching hundreds of athletes a day. They're from all over the world. Once again, all different ages. So it just helps you, I think, hone your like communication style and ability to connect with kids. And that was good. Like being able to get that experience at that time in my career. I don't think what else. Yeah, those are probably some of the things that stand out in my head as the best practices. And then here now, like I'm still learning how things work, but having sports scientists to help with the testing, having people, a data science and teams that are, can build dashboards with different metrics and stuff based on, have conversations around these numbers and stuff is like something I've got to learn how to do better because I haven't ever had that before. So, we'll see how that plays out over time. Guys that have been there longer, they obviously have a different system where they can test different metrics, like GPS. Like we're not going to do GPS with golf probably. So, just finding what I can talk to the other coaches about and extract from them in terms of how they use their data and stuff like that.
Cool.
So last question for me. I mean, with your golf athletes, and it could just be youth athletes in general, what are your big rocks, your non-negotiables that, hey, we need to make sure that we work on this, we're training this, and obviously, I mean, you're going to be deep diving in the golf the longer that you're at IMG, and you're going to develop those big rocks there. So again, those big rocks for those youth athletes, and then potentially if you have some, what are those big rocks that you're going to be working on with your golf athletes?
Yeah, I mean, it'll be similar. I feel like between golf and many other athletes, and maybe just like not as much speed and like agility work. But I mean, strength, big rock, rotor review, strength highly correlated to club head speed, ball, hitting distance, stuff like that. So like just getting stronger is going to help them hit the ball further, make their other shots shorter, be a better golfer essentially. And then mobility, big for golfers also. So hip, shoulder, T-spine mobility is going to be big for them. But for all athletes, I think mobility is important just to get into different positions. And even if they're not getting an extreme range of motion in their sport, being able to use that in their training to, elicit certain stimulus or adaptations, I think is important, especially around, the growth spurt and really before the growth spurt, just so they can maintain those movement patterns. Like Joey Berglas, you see his kids, he's got them moving well in 7th, 8th grade, and then you can maintain that ability better if you have it set early on. If you're trying to teach that to a kid who's like going through peak height velocity, it's probably maybe not impossible, but definitely a lot harder, just at the rate they're growing and they're uncoordinated and stuff. So mobility be huge for any sports. And then I guess tying those things together, movement quality, obviously important for all sports, also golfers. Those are, things that I think are important across sports. Golf specifically, obviously rotational power also. You might do more than maybe like a football player or something. There's a lot of rotational sports and a lot of rotation within all sports, even things that you don't think of as a rotational sport. So I think it's important for everything, but for golfers who are, rotating all the time, making sure they have the robustness in those movement patterns, not only to improve performance but reduce their injuries. So I'm picking up on the type of injuries they're having and stuff, and thinking about ways to lessen those a bit. But this is another thing I picked up at the Olympic Training Center was, I don't know if it was an exact quote, but his guy's philosophy was basically the primary exercises build the athlete and accessory stuff builds the sport. So I can't remember exactly, but I'm pretty sure like between bobsled, skeleton, and luge, they would all do, let's say they're on the same squat cycle, but then for luge, okay, they're pulling with their upper body, so their accessory stuff would be more lats and pull-ups and stuff. And bobsled, they would do different, maybe more sprinting stuff because they're actually sprinting and pushing a sled. So that's something that I've kind of kept a thread in my programs, and I did at Legacy. That's what helped me keep track between all the different sports was, okay, we're all going to squat, lunge, and hinge or whatever. And then in these A2 movement, okay, basketball, we're going to do some ankle strengthening or calf strengthening stuff, and softball, we're going to do some shoulder stuff. So I could tailor for the sport, which I think is not so much that you need to be sport specific in the weight room, but obviously the injuries are different. So that's one aspect, just trying to prevent those a little bit, and then making sure the kids, or helps with the kids maybe being bought in by giving them something more specific to what they're doing. So rather than say, hey, we're all doing this, yeah, we all need to be strong and fast, okay, that's great, but just to get on a more personal level with them, like, it just helps you explain the program to them and make sure that they understand that you're trying to do things that are helping them specifically versus what's easy for you as a coach, which is probably coaching the same thing to everyone.
I like that. Chris,
Andrew, you said you have 100 golfers?
Yeah, the whole program, I think there's 155. There's about 30 middle school golfers that my wife primarily works with, and then I'll come in for the end of those sessions. So I probably have 120-ish golfers, 9 through 12, yeah.
That is way more than I was expecting.
Yeah.
That is a lot of golfers.
So golf, yeah, it's the second oldest sport there. So it started as a tennis academy back in 78 or something, in the 70s. And then golf, I don't know when they added it, but it's been around for a while. And it's grown. I think it's continuing to grow. So yeah, it's quite a, I think there's other bigger programs in terms of numbers of people, but yeah, it's a lot of golfers still. So it's good. Are they all coming in at the same time? Are you having them come in groups? How does that look for you? They come in different times. So like for me, or for golf, there's kind of 4 time slots a day that they'll come in. And each one's an hour. I get them for an hour. So 8:30, 10:30, 2, and 4. And then middle school will come like 4:30 to 5:15. So, and then there's all different groups within that. So some days or some groups will train Monday, Wednesday, one week, and next week might be different. There's kind of there's morning groups and there's afternoon groups, because the way IMG set up, you either go to school the first half of the day and then do your sport, or you do your sport the first half of the day and then go to school. So the morning groups will always be in the morning, but they'll flip-flop between the 8:30 and the 10:30 slot. And then the days are they vary week to week. So these are, when Ross asks what are some things we could work on, and some of it's logistics, like it just doesn't work. We can't put everyone on the golf course at the same time, so we have to figure out, or in the weight room. So some of it's just planning and things that are out of our control, especially my control. But teams might come in Monday, Wednesday one week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday the next week, and only Thursday the next week. So like the schedule's kind of off depending on groups and when they have tournaments and what else they have going on, picture day, media day, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then, the afternoon groups, 2 to 4, sometimes, groups will change. Basically, they flip-flop week to week. So if a group comes in at 2 one week, the next week they'll come in at 4. And then, that other time slot, they're doing golf stuff. So
nice.
Pretty much 5 days a week for the most part, unless something's going on where they don't come in. But it's good for me because all the days are similar in time frame, whereas other coaches, week to week it might change based on, or day to day. Sometimes they'll start later but end later. Sometimes they'll start early, end early. Sometimes they'll start early, end late. For me, it's kind of the same time slots every day, which helps me like get into a bit of more of a routine and whatnot.
Gotcha. Chris, do you have a question?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I got a ton. I'm taking a million notes here, Andrew. You're crushing it, brother. So kind of a lighthearted question here, but just got to know, you're coaching golfers. What is the talk in the weight room between the PGA Tour and LIV? Is your team split down the middle? Are kids dreaming now of playing in the Saudi funded league, or are they sticking true to the roots and sticking with the PGA Tour? Like, what's that talk like?
There's not a lot of golf talk in the weight room, surprisingly.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, it's probably something I should ask and get a pulse on the kids and what they're feeling.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so to answer your question, I don't fully know.
Okay.
But tomorrow, that's going to be the first thing I ask everyone.
Yeah, perfect.
So thanks for that.
Yeah, no problem at all.
Report back. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just thinking, like, I wonder if I'm a young, basketball player, man, I want to make it to the NBA. But now for golf, there's these two different options, So what are they dreaming of here?
I feel like
it's hard to know.
The Live Tour, based on what I see and hear about it, seems like the more
lucrative,
cool, hip thing to do.
Yeah,
lucrative too, for sure. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll have to report back. No,
yeah, that's perfect. And as you were talking there, just mentioning strength with golfers, instantly I just thought of, for me being 31, growing up with Tiger Woods, like he was just jacked, right? He was a massive golfer. And then as, he's sort of aged out somewhat, the stories of Brooks Koepka, doing crazy workouts, and he was pretty hot there for a while. So no, it's pretty cool. And another person you mentioned here was Joey Burgles and his social media accounts and stuff. So is that somebody you see, or is that a model that you see of like, hey, that's perfect, you're doing it right, middle school, just get them moving, quality movement, and then that will transfer up to high school where you can start to build some performance on top of it?
Yeah, definitely, doing well. I mean, that is performance. So like those kids are still getting stronger and
great point.
And getting faster and all that stuff. So it's not like he's just doing the movements with no load. I mean, he's doing the movements, and then he shows from whatever 7th to 8th grade or 8th to 9th grade or 7th to 9th grade, like how much stronger those kids are getting too. So I think, obviously he focuses on, and that's the thing with everyone. It's like, if we focus on movement and get that down, we can load it, and then it will transfer to performance rather than, doing the opposite or putting, the load or performance first. And so I think a lot of people agree with that and try to do it, but I think he executes at the highest level, because I don't know how he does that. Someone gets those kids to move the way they do across the board, and I don't know that much about them. I'm sure they all move pretty well, and then there's social media and what we see, Instagram versus reality. What do the rest of his kids look like? But the attention to detail that he has coaching those kids and that those kids have in training is like what drives that process. So it's more like the culture he's built to train at that level, allows him to get the output with those kids. And that's where I'd throw my hands up sometimes, and like,
Oh yeah.
It's frustrating, because I'm always like, my kids can't do that. Like, they can't focus like that. Like, they can't move like that. You don't have my kids. Like, if you have my kids, you could be able to do that. And it's like, it's such a bad way to think about it. But it's just like, make myself feel better, because like, I don't know how he operates at that level, but I'm glad he is doing it at the high school level now, because you see him doing it at the collegiate level before in all his old videos. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Like, they're getting essentially paid to play sports. Yeah. And now it's like, this kid's 12, like, making him love these movements and stuff like that. And he does, and it's not all structured. Like, obviously they have a high level of structure in some of their training, but he also has obstacle courses and the variability built in there, and different other stuff that you would want to see in a youth program, which is important. Because if you're only doing the movement quality stuff and the resistance training stuff, then like I think you're missing out on other aspects of training or the experience. But he seems to have it all. So I don't know how to emulate him because I don't know how he does it.
Yeah. Yeah. I have 20 college hockey players in a weight room, and I'm just like, man, these are the dumbest people in the world. How did I get stuck with them? You know, great guys, but just so dumb. Yeah, that's classic. So with golf, there's a doctor in town here who has taken every level of the Titleist Performance Institute's courses, and he just kind of crushes it with golfers in the area. So you don't have to go super deep into this. Just wondering if you've dabbled into some of the Titleist Performance Institute stuff, some of the Greg Rose stuff, and if you've been able to apply any of that, if you have.
Yeah, so I'm actually taking the course now. It's all online now, so like
awesome. Oh, that's good.
There's not I think they do in-person stuff over time, but the only ones right now are like in South Korea or something.
Yeah.
So I'm doing the course and it's helping me learn a little bit about that. But when you mentioned Tiger Woods, like that was one of the things they talked about was pre-Tiger Woods, that like physical performance wasn't really one of the three main factors that contribute to golf performance. They thought like it was the clubs, the coaching, and like the mindset.
Yeah.
And then like after him changing the game, like in the late 90s, now like the physical aspect is a huge part of it. So, you know, I plan to keep obviously going to finish this course and see what else is out there and stuff. We haven't so because I'm still doing it, I'm not implementing any of that stuff, the screens yet, or anything, but like I definitely want to use some of the screens or some of the concepts to individualize training even more with the kids. You know, if they have good hips but not great T-spine or shoulders, like, okay, now we can individualize their training a bit more. Some kids might be vice versa. So I see it as because it's different too. Like if you're working in a small, you know, private setting where you got one golfer at a time or three golfers, like you can go super in depth with them. When you're training golfers in like a huge or bigger environment, it can be hard at times to individualize for training in general. And that's one thing I've always run into. That's why I like to at least break it down by sport and try to give each sport something different. Some things the same because strength is important for pretty much all sports. But, you know, I see it as definitely something to help individualize the training, but also build credibility with the golfers and the golf staff, because I'm not like a golf fanatic. Like many people are into golf and then they get into fitness. I'm like coming from the other side of it. So I think it's helped me at times because I see things from like an unbiased lens and a you know, from just a pure like movement and my understanding of that versus the sport and its culture. Like I'm learning a lot about that kind of stuff. So it's helped me, but I think as I learn more about golf and the, you know, super fine details, it'll just help me like speak their language when we're doing certain things. Cause right now it's like, you gotta get stronger. If you get stronger, you hit the ball further. But like, there's still a lot more stuff that we can help improve, or like other aspects that, you know, I can use to help, you know, build that connection a bit better.
No, that's a great answer. And so just as hopefully this is an encouragement for you. I work with only with hockey players with my deal. And I had never watched a single hockey game, played the game or anything until I coached them. And so I went in feeling like it was a huge disadvantage. And in a way it was, because exactly like you just said, where it's like, all right, we're going to hit the ball harder. Like I didn't know all the terms or anything like that. But I also wasn't kind of stuck in old ways of thinking, right? Like I kind of would look around and be like, what are we doing that for? Why, you know, what's with this? Or I'd go to kind of implement something and players would resist and be like, oh, I never did that growing up. So yeah, I think you're going to find that you're going to bring a lot of new kind of fresh ideas into things, especially with your experiences and background. So yeah, definitely try to learn the language, right? Obviously, but just know too, in a way it is an advantage because you're going to be coming in with a fresh slate and not having all these kind of, old stuck in the ways types of thoughts. But kind of on that too, working with a rotational sport as well. When you first started working with golfers, did anything come to mind of like, oh man, they're going to be super imbalanced, I have to kind of balance them out as you're going through these TPI courses? Are you seeing anything for that? Right. You're working with people who swing clubs. I'm working with people who swing sticks. Just wanted to get kind of your opinion, because depending on who I ask, they kind of lean one way or the other, or they might be in the middle.
Yeah, I mean, I guess with some of the assessments we do, like that, we haven't. I don't think we necessarily have a way to measure that. I guess we do. We're doing some different stuff this year.
Okay.
The golf program that it was set when I have come in, that they're very open-minded and wanting to progress, and like they're into like the physical side of things, which has been great. So it's not like I'm like, beating my head against the wall or anything, like trying to get them to train or like do these methods. Like they're, on board and want to help me out however possible. So they do some assessments, I guess, where you can see some strength imbalances and with grip and different like rotational med ball toss and stuff like that. But in terms of, movement quality, side to side, like that's something I think this is what I was talking about, like trying to find ways to integrate TPI stuff or have our own in-house things that are measuring more like qualitative analysis versus just outputs for stuff. Okay, he throws the ball harder one way than the other, but how are they creating that movement?
Yeah.
I think is important. So, I mean, I guess fully to answer your question, like, no, I don't think we're going to go, okay, we're going to do twice as many med ball throws this way versus the other way. I think we'll train both sides and try to make sure the imbalances are within reason, because a lot of times, and I learned this in baseball, but the imbalances are what make them, great at their sport, or like it's an inherent part of the sport. You swing the club one way all the time. So to make them perfectly symmetrical, like maybe you're taking away from their ability to fully rotate it the way they need to.
Yeah.
So as long as it's not causing any either movement issues or injuries as a result of it, I think, it's fine. So, and this is what I learned. Baseball players, they would do range of motion testing, internal, external rotation, and, it's fine to have more external rotation in your throwing arm and less internal rotation as long as it's within a certain, percentage of your other side. So, that's what makes them throw the ball harder. So you don't want to take that away. You just want to make sure, I guess it's within a band of acceptability, which I don't know what that is yet or how to assess that with a golfer yet. But some of the TPI stuff that I'm like, just started it pretty much yesterday. Got into like the first couple of chapters. I purchased it and I've been like trying to find time to do it. And I had some time to like sit yesterday and with it. And it has like, okay, if they have these certain faults, it's got, could be these muscles are tight or inactive or not activating at the right time. So like, I think that will help me over time see like what the imbalances are caused by or things we can work on to help, improve these faults. But yeah, I'll probably never be one to do more on one side than the other just because, they're always swinging one way. Like, maybe they could probably even do some golf swings the other way too. That'd be good.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I asked this same question to Gray Cook, if you're familiar with FMS and all that system. And he was like, oh yeah, this one golfer I worked with kept a lefty club in his bag. And so every now and then he'd just pull it out and swing it a couple times. But no, it is interesting. And I'll be done. I'll pass it over to Blair here. But I heard Eric Cressy talk about using weighted balls to kind of increase more. external rotation, right? If the ball's a little heavier, it's going to, pull your arm, your shoulder, your whatever back a bit more. So now I'll have to think about it, and in 10 minutes I'll probably be like, this is the dumbest idea ever. But I wonder if using a weighted stick, something a little heavier, could increase a little bit more rotation. So yeah, maybe we could talk off air, and you'd be like, that's the dumbest idea in the world. But just thinking for hockey, like, you kind of pull it up a little bit more, swing it through. Blair, he was the residential hockey player here, so he might text me later and be like, that's the dumbest idea. But interesting.
So for golf, they have like speed sticks where they're lighter than their club, and I assume heavier also. Maybe they're all lighter, but just different weights. But so they do have lighter clubs where you can practice on your speed. I don't know about heavier clubs, but I would think there would be the same effect for I don't know.
Yeah, this is season.
I think it's so dumb is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah. This is season 27 and 28 that I'm coaching right now of college hockey, and I've only known one player ever to have a weighted stick. Are they commonplace, Blair, or is it just kind of voodoo weird stuff that only the weird guy does?
Yeah, I've kind of seen it and always thought it was just the weird thing that the weird guy does. Okay. But the one weird guy that did it helped him. I feel like he got better. Now, I mean, obviously, if you looked at baseball, right? They're putting those things on their baseball bat. I don't know what they're called. The things on their baseball bats every time they go to hit, a couple swings before they go up to the plate. So, I mean, there must be something to that. I think.
The world heard it here first. We're gonna change the game with rotational athletes.
We do it with sprinting, right? We have assisted and resisted sprinting. So you would think you could have a lighter and a heavier implement for everything to improve the force and the speed of that same movement. So patent that. Go,
Yeah. The heavy light system for hockey. That'll be perfect. Yeah.
Ebook, start writing your ebook now, man, and you're good to go.
I'll just take these clips, sponsored by Dr. Andrew Pichardo. It'll be perfect. Yeah. But Blair, what do you got for us, brother?
I want to tag on to the rotational question, just because if you look at golf versus other sports like baseball, yes, there's rotation. Hockey, there's rotation. Most sports have rotation, but they have a lot of other things. Whereas I would say golf, it's you're rotating and then you walk to your ball, right? So it's heavy rotation. In your training, do you have a progression to how you incorporate rotational exercises, beyond just the mobility, med ball throws? Is there a progression for you there? Or what do you think of that as far as where do you start and where do you work your way to?
Yeah, I mean, it's something I'm developing based on being able to get more specific with one sport and dive in, and even the facilities in my where I was at before, I didn't really have a good wall to throw med balls on.
Yeah,
didn't have the right sizes and stuff. So this is the first time I've been able to fully sit and think about it at a deeper level. But what I'm working on, and I'm still relatively new to this role. I started a month and a half ago to almost 2 months ago. So I'm still trying to figure stuff out just in terms of, the schedule and stuff. But extensive to intensive. So just building up tissue capacity and movement patterns, and building some, endurance of those things before moving on to, and obviously those are going to be at a lower force and lower velocity, and then, increasing that over time, to more single effort intensive throws. So that's kind of one aspect I plan to implement. And I say plan because like I said, I had to get stuff going just to get stuff going. And then I'm trying to work on what do I really want it to look like, or how can it look now that I know how things work and what's going on. Same thing with the setup, the stance you're in. So trying to go from less mechanically advantageous to more so. So kneeling and tall kneeling stuff, and then progressing to standing, and then in just different foot spacing, and then static to dynamic. So just in place throws, and then adding in, run ups to it, run back, and push off. Those are like the ideas I have in my head right now of like how I'm going to build that out. I don't exactly know yet, but those are like some things I think about, having different phases, or, progressing certain aspects of those at different times. And I guess, I guess that's it. I mean, I don't want, I just don't want them to be too like interested in the outcome if their sequencing is wrong. So like I'm learning this CPI thing I was, watching yesterday, talking about the sequence of the swing and how energy is transferred and stuff, it makes sense. But like, we don't want them to create bad habits when they're throwing these balls. So like, it's trying to make sure their sequence is the same from the hips to the trunks to the arm to the ball when they're throwing med balls, versus like, okay, if I'm starting with my hands first, my hips aren't coming through, is that going to translate to the swing? So, and some of this stuff, like the golf coaches run, so most teams lift between 1 and 3 times a week with me, and then they have a day at their golf practice facility. So it's not a full course. They have just like their own building and facility, and they've got like a little functional training space, they call it. And so their golf coaches run those sessions once a week. Everyone gets that once a week. And so, I've got some of this stuff, and that's what they'll do a lot of the throws, because they have a wall they built for med ball throws. And in the weight room that we're in, really both the weight rooms that we have, there's not really a wall for that. We can do like slams, but there's not a wall to like do that rotational stuff. So, it's I can design stuff, but then it's like making, I'm going to have to upskill them, which they have the skills, they know the sequence and stuff like that, but it's like getting them to understand finer points of some of this other functional training we're trying to do over there. But those are my thoughts on it right now. I'm looking, on Google, YouTube, looking at people's med ball progressions and stuff, and like seeing what I like, what I don't like, how it fits in, and stuff like that. But I don't have my own like pre-made one that I brought over from baseball or anything. It's kind of starting from scratch and building out based on what I'm learning as I go.
No, it's all good stuff. And it's funny you talk about like your facility, right? Not having a wall. Like I just started up at a private school up here, and we have an awesome weight room, and there's not one good place to do med ball work. And we have 50 med balls that don't really serve us very well at all. Like they're not great med balls for even doing like a partner pass. Like there's an option I have space. I can have them pass it to each other in, one way or another, but like these balls are just awful. They're not big enough, or they're too heavy, or they're like just awkward. So it's, you're kind of at the mercy of what you have in front of you. So,
I mean, like everywhere, like, I mean, it's, there's a lot of great things, about our setup, and there's things that we're still high school strength and conditioning, and you're going to have those type of things anywhere. There's a wall outside that's not connected to the training space that we have, that where we can go outside and just do med ball work, or do that first and then go in with, saying we could go outside and throw med balls up and stuff, but like that was the facility I had before. We could throw balls, we just couldn't throw them against the wall. But we do vertical and horizontal throws all the time, rotational throws with partners. Now, you just have to be more creative in how you implement it. So
makes sense. Cool. Blair, you got anything else?
Yeah, I was going to ask, I know you have the PhD, and from listening to another podcast, it sounded like it was a lot to do with your, mentors, as far as like seeking out that. But, what was maybe the number one reason that you wanted to get the PhD? Was it, continued mastery in strength and conditioning? Was it, the research aspect? Was it kind of following the path of your mentors? Like what was your number one reason for that? Something that, I was interested in, and, I've decided, at least for now, it's, not something I'm going to do, but just interested in your take, what your thoughts were there.
An excuse to live in New Zealand? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's a good one.
That's fair.
That's a good one.
Probably like number 3 or 4 on the list. The number one thing was probably that I think it was maybe the first one you mentioned, but the mastery in the field as much as possible. Like, there's a lot, I guess, factors that went into it, but I was finishing my master's, not really feeling like I was really even ready to go into the workplace yet. Like, and that was I came out of a good program. Like, I learned a lot. I had good experience there, but it was still like, man, I couldn't imagine like going and being in charge of a college team right now, or even high school team. Like, so part of it was like delaying that process a bit more. That was definitely part of it. In terms of, that was the reason I chose to go that route. Now, why I went to AUT is based on my mentors and from both Midwestern and App State. So my undergrad and graduate degree, they both had ties there and stuff like that. So that's how that stayed on my radar and was kind of at the forefront of that. And then, the research process, like I got, I guess, deeper into that in grad school. Like in undergrad, I was not involved in the labs there or anything. Like, it wasn't really on my radar. That it wasn't a big school. It was a D2 school. They didn't, there was only a couple of professors. They didn't really do a lot of, wasn't a research institution or anything. So it was just kind of my setting and why I wasn't really exposed to it as much. But when I went to grad school, we read a lot. We had a research class. We had a stats class. It was involved in the classes that we took, and they did a lot more research there, and it was cool research. Not like, some of it was, super clinical and stuff I'm not interested in, but some of it was like, building a sled for the rugby team and measuring forces that they hit it with and stuff like that. I was involved in research. I had a optic fiber put through my patella tendon and did like squat and jump stuff, and got paid for it. And like, I'm like, this is cool. Like, so that kind of also put that on the radar in terms of like that's a part of academia, or that's a part of even being a strength coach that interested me. And really, like, I don't know if I would have stayed in the States to do a PhD. So I feel like most other places in the world, definitely Australia and New Zealand, it's all research based. So there's no coursework. So it's pretty much a 3-year program, and depending on your setup and how things work, it could take a little bit longer. It's probably not going to be any shorter, but just the fact that you don't have to go through 2 years of more classes before you even start your research, which is going to be another 3 years. Like, it's all just, do your project. I think that was appealing, and in the unique setup where I was, it was the project dealt with the coaching, and there was, coaching involved with the project, and it was very open where I could kind of research what I wanted versus some, there's a lot of labs. You go be a part of that lab and do your PhD, and you're doing whatever the lab does, and you're just a cog in this like huge machine, which is fine. You get a PhD, and you're going to have a career in research or academia probably. And that's how I guess a lot of big research institutions work, but it was the experience at AUT and like it being open and flexible and coaching, and obviously being in New Zealand was great. So it was kind of a multitude of factors that all, and it was just good timing, I guess, that helped me fully go that route versus doing more unpaid temporary internships for another year or two. Yeah.
Sounds right.
Yeah.
Sounds about right. Well, Andrew, we're over an hour here, man, and we want to definitely respect your time here. Ross or Blair, any other kind of quick questions or comments before I kind of wrap things up here?
Nope, just thankful for your time.
Yeah, no, awesome. So, we all have our people we kind of, social media or internet stalk and stuff like that. And so I want to highly recommend Andrew to everybody here. So on Twitter at Andrew Pichardo 6 at Andrew Pichardo 6. And so obviously, yeah, we follow people on the internet, and this might get a little uncomfortable for you as I talk about you, Andrew, so I apologize. But we all follow people on the internet, and then you get to have a conversation with them, and then you find out a bit more about who they are. And a lot of my notes that I kind of took here, the word that keeps coming to mind for me is calculated. All right. So we are dealing with a very calculated individual here. So when you look at Andrew's LinkedIn, you could see he's been a bunch of places. I don't think that he was making mistakes while he was doing those. I think he was making calculated kind of next steps there. And what I understood from you is you want iron that sharpens iron. You want to continue to get better. You use the word mastery. Part of your decision for going to IMG was because they had 20 plus coaches, right? More people that you could talk to, more people you could learn from. You add in your background of, moving down to a completely different country on the opposite side of the world to seek out a PhD so that you could further develop that mastery. It's very cool to see, and excites me to kind of keep following your future. It kind of seems like you're going to be a bridge, right, between the academia research side and the performance side, which is the double, the triple threat, the Ken Clarks of the world, where you could speak to the weight room guy, you could also speak to the research guy. Even saying, with having a child, what's had to happen is you've had to become, again, more calculated, more on top of things. And again, what you like about IMG is there's so many athletes there that you get to develop your communication style and skills even more. So again, at Andrew Pichardo 6 on Twitter, he's active. Make sure you guys follow him. And Andrew, it's really been awesome getting to talk to you, get to know you a bit more. And I love talking with and hearing of other coaches that just want to get after it, right? You could have very easily, after your master's degree, got a job real quick and started that kind of comfortable lifestyle. But you chose to keep continuing to push yourself to be uncomfortable somewhat, so that you could keep pursuing that mastery and that excellence. And that's what we need in the world. That's what we need in this field. So yeah, man, I'm a big fan now. I was, from my social media stalking, and then of course just getting to talk to you, getting to find out who you are. Man, you're a calculated person making great decisions, and every coach you interact with and every athlete that you coach is going to be better for it. So, as somebody who's trying to, do good in the field, I'm recognizing you're absolutely like that. So thank you. I'm sorry. I know that was probably a little awkward to, hear somebody else kind of describe you and give you their hot take on you, but no, you're the man. It's awesome. It really is. All right. So for Blair, Ross, and for me, that was our podcast with Dr. Andrew Pichardo. Again, please go follow him on Twitter. Awesome dude who's doing awesome things down there at IMG in Florida. Andrew, thanks again for coming on. We appreciate it.
Thank you guys so much for your time.
Yeah.